concerned, but the clocks are here. Rachel's going to be putting them up over the next couple of days, so people have clocks. I was actually surprised you were all so worried about clocks, because, like, for most of you, every day's Saturday, right? But I have a special guest with me today. I brought Mayor Julie along, because she started crying in the back room. This was one of her project, and I'm happy to have seen it through to the end. But I texted Julie this morning and said, "Why don't you come with me to this?" And she's like, "Yeah." I had no idea we'd have this big of a turnout. This is the biggest one I ever had. So yeah, I'm sure you're all here about the chicken ordinance or something, right? So welcome to the new building. For most of you who come regularly, I give a little bit of an update and then open it up for question and answer. But before we get to that, I was going to ask Julie to give a couple of remarks about the new building that she worked really hard to get. And I threw her completely under the bus here.
Well, before I go any further, I do want to wish my in-laws, Jack and Tony Nickel, a 69th wedding anniversary. So blessed to have them in my life. But I want to thank Mayor Rohn. This has been a dream of mine for a long time. Ron and I were on the Parks and Rec committee when
way back when.
I had
hair.
20 years. So we had talked about this 20 years ago, and then we were fortunate enough to get Rachel, and we just knew that with her personality and the need in this city was so needed for this building. And I want to thank Rachel for her hard work in getting everybody there. Yeah, she's a big part of this. And when unfortunately when COVID hit, that was a hard time for everyone. But that's how we were able to get the grant for this. And through COVID and the grant that the governor's office had put out, we had Sarah Van Buren, who worked for the city, and Kathy Schleve wrote our grant, and we started the planning. So, and thanks to all of you for making this such a big success. This has been an overwhelming need, and with this community center, it's going to be good for our younger people, and to come in and be a part of this community. So thanks to Ron and the committee and Dan Sievers and everyone who worked on this project. Thank you.
And Dan deserves a lot of credit. He's on the city council. He took over for me when I took over for her. But we put him on the committee that helped build this building, and his construction background, he squeezed every nickel out of that contract. They didn't even see him walk in the room, but it was a huge asset, and the building turned out great. Before I open up for questions, I do want to say we know the tables have holes in them. We're going to fix that. I was here this morning and that came up. So, but.
I do want to say that we're very fortunate to have this building and for all of you. But I'm hoping that we can all take care of it together and keep it staffed. I know it's going to cost us a little bit of money to do that, and we've had this conversation, but I think it's a much needed gem in our community. So
we are looking to add staff to Parks and Recreation, a couple of part-time people, and to add maybe more part-time folks for Public Works to help maintain this building. I know there's been some discussion about the fees that we all have to pay now to be members out here, except for the mayor's visit, which is free, which you can tell by the turnout. But last month I joked, that's all I'm worth is nothing, right? But to keep this building as nice as it is, we just can't, like, when we were down on Main Street, that building was nice and all, but look at what all we get here. So it's just gonna take a little extra effort to keep it going. But like Mayor Julie said, if we can all pitch in and just keep the building in great shape, it's gonna last a really, really long time. And I do think this is a building that the community is gonna really rally around, and I can kind of tell by the massive turnout we have today. So,
and I think CWC is pretty happy too with when we purchased the building and we're able to put it in this location, and I think the neighbors are are much happier.
Well, yeah, and it's not just gonna be an empty building sitting here, like there was some discussion about events being here and how late they would go. Well, this building closes at 10 o'clock every night of the week, even on Saturday, if they sheet it to 10:30, whatever, but it's not gonna disrupt the neighbors, it's gonna be probably quieter than when there's concerts in the park going on, so it's a nice addition to this spot. It was a school anyway, so it never paid taxes, so this is a perfect place for this building. And we've got a sign on order, I've got pictures of that, well, we haven't ordered it yet, but I think it's gonna look like this. I didn't know so many people were gonna be here, but it's a nice looking, see it says Waupun Community Center? Yeah. You wanna hold it up? You can be like my Vanna White. But that's what the sign is, we'll have that out here, it'll have a bit of a reader board on it. And we're really excited, like this, it's nice to have a place where the community can come together. Obviously, it's going to be a senior center during the day, but Rachel said.
You gotta have that.
It's almost like we're doing her appointment review. So it'll be really, really cool, and I'm really glad you all turned out. So, what are your questions this month? So, yes, go ahead.
How long exactly?
Mm-hmm.
Like how long can you have a big skeleton in your yard? Is there an ordinance?
No, there's not.
I don't want to see skeletons.
I don't either, unless it's the night before Christmas.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I would just assume people would take them down. We don't have an ordinance either in Waupun about political yard signs. I get complaints about that flag on Fond du Lac Street because it's got the F word in it about Trump. And I don't care how you vote, and if it were up to me, I wouldn't put that flag up, but at the end of the day, you have political free speech, and it's not our role to crack down on that, so, yeah, it is. It's not my cup of tea, but people do what they want to do.
Is that sign gonna have senior or just community center?
It's gonna say community center. We really want to brand this as a community center. In most of my emails, I do say senior/community center, because we're transitioning over. But a building of this nature and of this size, it's gotta be more than just a senior center. But, I mean, no disrespect, but scanning the room, other than Pastor Barry, no one here is younger than me. So,
Be proud about me over here.
you're older than me, right?
Yeah.
So what's the name of the community center before gonna be?
Well, right now, we're calling it the Waupun Ice Arena. And Waupun Hockey is working with the city to sell the naming rights. They're trying to get a sponsorship to help offset some of the costs it takes to run a hockey rink. With the fact that the trucking show is at least temporarily ended, I did talk to the Hockey Association that they could have ice in there year round, but the cost of having ice in there in the summer months is really, really high. They talked to the Fond du Lac Blue Line Center, and just utilities cost of keeping it cold enough to keep the ice when it's 96 degrees is kind of insane. So it'll still be a city-owned property that Waupun Hockey rents for most of the year, but it's something we can still use for events like the Bike Rodeo, Volksfest, which is actually a hockey association event anyway. But it'll still, I did talk to the hockey board about giving them the building for $1, but the cost of owning it's probably more than they can take on, at least so for right now. So that will still be a city-owned building that hockey uses most of the time, but they are working on selling the naming rights to help offset some of the costs, which would be really, really cool. And I do know they've got a 3 different potential goes on that, so that would be cool. And as you know, I like to break up our water a lot because we have the best water in the state. I toured the back room of the ice arena, I call it, and the what do they call it? The Zamboni. It's actually pretty old, and it's in really good condition. And one of the reasons it's in such good shape is the water that they run through it is such good water. And I just was, it cracks me up like how all our appliances and all of our things like that in Zamboni last longer than they should because of the quality of our water. One really cool thing is when you're in that back room, they actually have on the wall a picture of a artist rendition of what the building would look like. They've got the original building permit signed by John Dobrats, and a couple other things. And it's one of those things that like not the general public gets to see, but I think more people should go back there and see it because it's actually pretty cool. I opened in 1975, and I wasn't born until 1979. So I like to rub that in. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Did they ever have an open house at that, whatever it is on Conrad Street, just over the bridge, the sewage treatment?
No, not yet.
Oh.
I think they know they have to have one, and they're going to have one, and you're going to really enjoy it when you take the tour. They're figuring out the actual final they're a little behind schedule. They're trying to figure out the exact. I've been asked this question why the lights in the building change color. And the reason is they're doing different light studies. So they've changed, it was pink and blue, and now it's red. And they also raise and lower the lights. So there's, 96 miles of tubes of glass with the water going through it that grows the algae. They're changing the lights all the time to see how they make the algae as perfect as possible. And then when we get to that point, the DNR will sign off on the water discharge we're doing for the PFAS, and then we can start selling the algae to the algae brokers, and then hopefully we can start making some money out of that thing. We have lots of people. Last year, I actually had to give a speech welcoming to the Waupun, but from all over the world, all of these algae nerds. I was way out of my way. Like they're using words of yeah. But what that plant's going to do, and that started under your time too, it's actually a really, really cool thing. And the size of it, it's the first in the country of this nature. So Waupun's a leader on that, and it's been expensive to do, but one thing I've been pushing the utilities to do, and they don't want to spend the money, but I want to repaint the water towers and say Waupun, Wisconsin's water city, because we have the best drinking water in the state, and we have the best wastewater discharge, maybe even in the country. So I toured the wastewater plant 2 Fridays ago. I got a funny story about that. So they took me to where all the sewer water comes in, right? And it's this deep, deep hole. And I can see things in there floating. And I look down there, I'm like, is that poop? And Steve Schramm says, you're very observant, Mayor, because you can smell it. And then the next stage the water goes to, they have this big thing, they call it a collector, and it gets all the garbage out of the water that people flush down there. Things I shouldn't say in public, cigarette boxes, stuff that just doesn't flush, catches all of this garbage, and then every so often it moves along and it takes it out. Then it goes to stage 3, and what I didn't know until this tour is corn, eggshells, and coffee grinds don't decay in the water. So the next step takes all those things out. So you sit and there's a garbage can, and corn kernels, coffee grinds, eggshells all fall out. And I'm like, I didn't know people put eggshells down the drain. I throw them away, but people do what people do. And then it goes through these different holding tanks where the water comes out. And then, so the water that actually goes to that new building that you see is the water that we used to put in the river. And now it goes through those tubes of glass to get the PFAS out of it. And it's a really cool process. And then I got to go down to the river where the water discharges into the river, and it's really clean, it's highly oxygenized, and it's warmer than the river water, so there's fish everywhere. So if everyone was the mayor and they could get through that fence, it's a great place to fish. But it's only us.
There's no water to fish in there now.
Well, this side of it, there is. Speaking of which, I'm sure you're all wondering about the river. The part is coming. We have to replace I got it written down, a 3-foot pipe. And the DNR is not being super helpful. So I've talked to Representative Mark Bourne's office to help push that through. All of a sudden they want all of these studies that we need. It's just such a simple thing. We put a little curtain, the water, it's like a dam. We're going to have Waupun Utilities pump the water out. Once the water's out, we replace the pipe. Then that overflow thing will work again for the dam, and then it's fixed. It takes less than a day, but they want all of these permits. It's getting to the point where the permits are going to cost more than fixing the dam. So I called our state representative, and they're working on it, and hopefully they help us out. Because the parts are in order, and it's on its way. Once it gets here, the mill pond's not going to fill up overnight. Because if we close the dam entirely, downstream gets flooded, or droughted out, if that's the right term. So the DNR will let us close it about 25%, and then we'll start to slowly back the water up. And at this point, like that rainstorm we had in June, it should happen today because we have more capacity for it. But it might actually take the spring snow melt to refill the mill pond. But I think last month, well, a lot of you weren't here, obviously, but last month I talked about all the cool things that they found with the water level being so low, and they're still pulling items out of the water over by where you live, by Dr. Timmerman's. There's a new pile going. So I'm sending Public Works over to get, it's not our job, but why not? But we found ammunition that brought up the Dane County bomb squad on a Saturday night.
Would that actually bomb?
They don't think so.
Okay.
But they did say when they looked at it, it was the right thing for the Waupun PD to call them in. And it was funny too, that was that Labor Day weekend or no. Must have been I don't know what weekend it was, but Jenny and I drove over there because I heard about it. And Officer Williams was on scene, and so he's giving me an update. And then he's on the phone with the Dane County Bomb Squad. And he's on speakerphone, and they were worried about securing the area. And if you know Bobby Williams, he's a big, aggressive-looking guy with a beard with a really good cut. Like, you don't want to tick him off. And he's on the phone. He says, yeah, the scene's secure, because to get to it, they have to get past me. That ain't going to happen. Jenny and I got a good laugh out of that. And then the Dane County Bomb Squad came up that night, took it all away. They found lots of bicycles, a safe. The safe had nothing in it but spoiled milk. And then they found 2 guns. And one of the guns was loaded, was stolen, and was used in a crime. So it was turned over to the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Department. So
A recent crime or?
like 7-8 years ago. So
2013 it was.
But it's been underwater for that, so I doubt there's any fingerprints on it. But it's one of those things that people joke with me, did you find any bodies? Which we didn't. But not to be morbid, but that guy, Gerald Strigi, who's been missing for a while, like we did take a Christopher, like we did look, because you kind of have to. But like the river hasn't been this empty in a very, very long time. It's kind of neat. I took my kids, we walked across the dam, and I told them, you may never get to do this again. So kind of remember this, because once it's fixed and back to normal, it'll be really nice.
We took a canoe trip down it this week, Sunday, and we got all the way to the railroad trestles in the river down by the mill pond, and then my daughter got stuck, had to get out, and she lost her shoes, and she was this deep. Yeah, but there's a couple that do some magnet fishing, and what they do is they throw these magnets out and into the water, and they bring it in, and they found a barrel of a gun. Wendy's Adventures, it's on YouTube apparently. But they did find a potbelly stove and yeah, lots of
Neat stuff, yeah. My neighbor Brian found bottles that said Star and Crescent on it and all of that. Did you notice the old railroad trestles were gone?
Yeah.
Doesn't that look nice?
Yeah.
That happened on its own.
Rachel found something down here too.
Rachel did? Did you find, what, you out swimming or?
We had yoga in the park about 2 weeks after it all happened. And I just went down there traipsing around right before yoga. And in 15 minutes, I found this really cool jar-looking thing. We don't know what it is. It's on my desk. You're more than welcome when we take the tour. Come and look at the treasure that we found at yoga in the park.
Oh, that'd be interesting. So we're hopeful to get that back to normal soon. Oh, and one question that came up, and I wasn't old enough to know this happened, but apparently in 1982 or 83, someone broke off part of the spear of the end of the trail statue. And it got fixed at some point around then. And I would have been 4, so my apologies for not knowing more about it. I like to rub it in that I'm younger. But I was asked to look in the mill pond for it by Jim Laird, but like it didn't turn up, and it was probably heavy, so if somebody threw it in the river, it sunk or wherever it went. But honestly, until the dam broke, I didn't even know that had happened at one point. So that was kind of a neat tidbit of history that we learned. So.
Here.
Yes.
Any updates on the sale of Christian?
Yeah, that's on hold. Our city administrator is having a meeting with, I think SSM and one of the companies interested in buying it. But honestly, until your email came in, we didn't even know it got stopped. So SSM's communication with us was really, really good until it wasn't. So I'm thankful that you knew what was going on and let us know about it, because we didn't know until you told us. And I didn't know you played such a role in having it here and keeping it here. So I appreciate what you did for Waupun and having a place for elderly residents to live. And until your email came, I didn't know there were all these state laws about how many beds can be in a county and all of that. So that just proves every day I go along, I learn something in this job. Sometimes it's something good and sometimes it's useless, but I learn a lot of interesting things in this job.
John, have you heard anything lately? Have they had any pamphlets come out at the home for the sale?
Nothing.
Nothing yet? Okay.
Is the senior center sold yet? You don't know?
Nope, we're working on that. We've had a couple interested parties who've walked through it. We have 2 more to do, and then we're hoping that it sells in the relatively near future. As you know from my previous visits, we're being kind of picky on who buys it. We don't want a repeat of the Golden Cup. We want it to be someone who's going to invest money and make it nice for the downtown. We've had different people go through it, and it's going to take some work, but it is a nice building and a nice location. So we're really, really hopeful and optimistic that the right person buys it and does something cool with it.
You know, going back to the current Christian home that's in the process of being sold, how are we gonna be kept updated on what's going on with that? Because, I mean, we don't really have a newspaper anymore in town, or, you know.
I know that a lot of the people that live there, every week they do an update for the residents that live there. And they kind of, basically it's just an update of saying it's going through the process, but yeah, that's a good, besides the residents, I wouldn't know how you would know that.
And I didn't know they were selling it until they gave us the courtesy phone call and let us know what was happening. And then, like I said, I didn't know it got put on hold until you had said something. But I don't think they leave that location because there's a lot of money invested in it.
But it's a private company that's
Yep.
buying it, who don't have any kind of investment in our
Right.
community here. Because Agnesia had a great investment here, then now it went out to St. Louis. We drink Miller, they drink Budweiser, you know.
Well, that's one way to put it.
So they don't have, you know, SSM does not have as big an investment in this community as Agnesia did.
Correct.
So I'm-
Well, even with the whole, like, what you said about that, they closed the dialysis center and they're merging it all into Beaver Dam. And, I mean, that's corporate America for you.
Yeah.
It does.
How come started it?
I know. I remember when that was a roller skating rink. And my parents remember when it was Lauer's grocery store. I don't, because like I said, I'm younger than you all. All right, I'll stop saying that before you start booing. Yes. Who?
Way over.
Oh, hi, Barb.
Talking about the Christian home, I hope this doesn't get dropped, because I think this city, this community, very much needs a very good old folks home, nursing home, whatever you want to call it. Assisted living is there also, because these are needed. In this, you know, if this goes out of Waupun, you have to look either to Fond du Lac or to Beaver Dam or to Marquesan. And you know, if you have a loved one there, and probably you're older, sometimes people have strokes when they're young, they have to go into nursing homes, but you're probably older, and to have to drive out of town to Beaver Dam, to Fond du Lac, to Marquesan, and want to be able to visit the person that is so dear to you, and want to be there as often as you can, that's a big, big burden. So we really need to have a good place here. I hope that isn't dropped. I hope people really work at getting a good place here for people. Because
Especially with Marvin's Manor closing, it's.
yeah, that too, and I was surprised, and that was such a good place also. Now, and what do we know about that? Is that going to be assisted living again or not? Does anyone know about that, or, I don't know.
They are roofing it. A person tried to buy it to keep it as an assisted living.
Oh, good.
Currently, right now, it's almost impossible to get the insurance to do that, so that deal fell through. So as a city, we're gonna try to work with whoever buys it to make it some kind of multi-person housing. Because we do need the housing. We're working on a couple of housing projects in the city, and we're working on stormwater projects, and there's always a lot going on. Speaking of the stormwater thing, I know we all flooded in June, but one of the things that we discussed at length at last month's Department of Public Works meeting is the city of Waupun's gonna spend $24,000 on engineering to help try to figure out ways to relieve the flooding. We've got a few things, like one of the things that's happening is the weather has changed. It rains differently than it used to. Like it used to rain and then not rain, and now it like rains like crazy and then we have a drought. That I can't control. But the other thing that's going on is all of the neighboring farmers are doing the tiling in their fields, so we have more water flowing into the city at a faster rate than ever in the past. We can't stop that currently, but I do plan on meeting with state legislators come January to help maybe get some laws written so that in the countryside and in the townships where farmers are tiling their field, they put in some sort of a retention pond. I don't mind the water coming into the city, but we just need it to be held for a while so we can catch up with our water and then take theirs in. We are also looking at a couple of different locations for stormwater retention ponds. I was in a meeting this morning on 2 of those locations. So, and Waupun Utilities is running an investigation on why their sanitary sewer is filling up with so much water faster than it should be. One of the reasons is if you have a whole bunch of houses where the basements take on 2 or 3 inches of water, all that water is going down the floor drain, and that adds up pretty quick, and there's truth to that. But they are getting more water than they should be. So I just want people to know the city is taking it seriously. We're spending money on it, and we want to do what we can to relieve the flooding issues that have been happening. I think you had one while you were in, you had a tornado too. But the night of the flood, like Mayor Jody had sent me a text, and she had lived through a flood as the mayor, and she goes, I know what this is like and it's stressful. And for the week after, I took off of work and stood in people's basements and had a lot of wet socks. And the mayor's an easy person to vent to, and that's who people vent to. And I get it, and I'm not complaining about that, that's fine. But I just, like, at the same time, it's not my fault or Julie's fault if we get 6 inches of rain in 4 hours. So at some point, sometimes it's just out of our hands, but I just want residents of Waupun to know we didn't have that and we're just blowing it off. We're taking it seriously, and it's gonna take some time and it's gonna cost some money, but it's something that our city's taking very seriously, and we're spending money and we're having meetings to try to fix it, or at least relieve it as much as we can.
Maybe you should go talk to some of them farmers before you put them all out of business.
Well, see,
And try to work something with them, the way they're irrigating. I know I've seen fields all the way to Fond du Lac that were flooded. They irrigated it now, but I don't know where the water goes. But they got.
No, you raised a good point, because I'm not trying to bash farmers. I'm actually a member of the Farm Bureau, because you can't marry Tracy's granddaughter without joining. But on a more serious note, like, if I farmed, I would do it too. Like, I totally get it. But just, we're not the only city in this spot. And like, if as city residents, like we all like farmers until it's your basement full of water. We've gotta work together as cities and towns, counties and cities to just, you don't want to turn good agricultural land into a stormwater pond, and I get it. But at the same time, I don't want your house full of water every time it rains hard. So we've just got to work stuff out where we can hold the water for a few hours until the creek and the river can catch up, then that water can come in. And this is happening all over the state of Wisconsin, because the tiling thing works great. It keeps the dirt at the right level of moisture, crops are great, farmers make money, they feed the entire world. We're not knocking farmers. We don't want to hurt them, and we don't want to put them out of business, but at the same, I just don't want your house underwater. And that's when people yell at me, they know it's not my fault their basement has 4 inches of water, and they just want to yell at someone. But these are just things we have to work through as society, and hopefully we can come to nice agreements that don't cost anyone a whole lot of money and help each other out on both sides. But I appreciate your question, yes.
Weren't there supposed to be a number of retention ponds around Waupun?
Yes, there's a number of them now.
There's one by the high school.
Yes, and there's one by the,
They're all over.
yeah.
There's one by my house.
There's one by my
Yeah.
house.
We are under state mandate actually to build $7 million more of them.
Oh,
And
you're gonna have to enlarge the city.
I like that you said that, because the reality is, we don't have enough available space, and we don't have $7 million to build them all. And that's why this has to be not just city thing. It has to be the cities, it's gotta be the towns, it's gotta be the counties. We've all gotta work together on this. The purpose of the stormwater ponds actually isn't flood control, it's pollution. The water brings the pollutants in, the water table rises, clean water flows out, and it leaves the pollutants behind. Then as the sediment fills up the pond, they dredge it out and it gets spread out in fields. However, a secondary effect of it is it helps with floods because it lets water go and sit in places. But I mentioned that the public works meeting we had this month, they actually had an engineer draw up a plan to build, it was stupid, like 10 acres. It was a huge number, or an acre, I don't know. A rather large pond at the country club, 6 feet deep, and it would not relieve the flooding on Gateway Drive. And what I have a hard time wrapping my mind around is how much water sometimes is out there. And everyone asks me about Gateway Drive every time we have these rain events and they have to close the street. But the reality is Gateway Drive was put in 1998 and they put it right through a floodplain. The river is actually higher than the road. You can see it when you drive by. So when we have a lot of water and the river floods, it's gotta go somewhere. So if we build that street up and the DNR says we can, well then we gotta tell the DNR where all that water's going, and I don't have a place to put it. So this is a long-term thing we're gonna have to work on, but I like to talk about it because I know this is an issue that people talk about all the time.
But tell them how much it costs to replace that road.
Oh, it's gone up since you.
It's really expensive.
We're at $5 million right now. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I said I was gonna. In 1998, I was graduating high school, so I had nothing to do with the road going in.
I was and I think there was a tornado in Waupun, and she was up most of the night. Oh, that's well.
Oh, yeah, I believe that. The night the flood happened, I was at what was that, June? What was the night? June 9th or something? It was a Saturday, and I knew the water level was high and there was a chance for severe thunderstorms. I went to a graduation party on Ronsville Street, and I had a beer. And then I had a second one, and it started to pour. And I looked at my phone, I'm like, oh, it's gonna rain a while. And I switched to water, because I'm like, I bet you I'm gonna have to go in tonight. So I went home, and it just poured, and it poured, and it poured. And sure enough, I had to go in and sign that mayoral declaration that night. And then I spent the rest of the night riding around with public works people looking at flood zones and flooded areas. And so like, when it ruins your night, it ruins mine as well. But like even the night when that storm came through and the power would go on and off, you'd be surprised how many people called, oh, you gotta tell your story about the power outage and the guy's beer getting warm. This is a great one initially, and it wasn't me.
We had a power outage. I think a squirrel hit a transformer, and half the city was out. And I got a phone call at 2:30 in the morning from a gentleman. It said, thanks for turning the power back on. My beer was getting warm in my refrigerator.
All priorities, right? All right.
2:30 in the morning. Oh, I had no idea who he was.
It's funny because in this role, like on my phone, I've got like 2 phone numbers. Like my phone's silenced, but there's 2 people who can call me and it'll ring. One's my wife, the other's Kathy Schlieben. Because when she calls me, it's never good.
No.
And then the police chief's there too now. But. All right, Mr. Taves, what's on your mind? Was he coming when you were here?
I was wondering when you're gonna take us through that water plant. You said you were gonna do it all summer and never did.
They, like I said before, they fell a little behind because they're catching up on the technology. They are going to have an open house, and I promise you, and I will follow through on it, we'll have a senior center.
That time you have to take a wheelchair though.
Maybe you won't be here anymore. But I'm going to have a
I know you always get the last word.
I'm just like your wife, who I'm very thankful is back this month. She wasn't here last month to keep him in line. I was getting hammered left and right. But she wasn't feeling well, so she stayed home. But Mr. Taves, we will have a senior center only bus tour out to the wastewater plant. You'll all get a tour. It's just with walkers and wheelchairs and stuff. We just got to make sure it's all set up for you. But we will do it. And you're gonna like it, it's pretty cool.
They had a bunch of stuff.
I was there. Were you there? Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, they're showing us how they take the mold or
The algae.
yeah.
Did you go in the trailer and see how the camera was going through the storm sewers or the sanitary sewers? See toilet paper float by?
So one of the things that we had when we signed the agreement to sell the algae was, one of the purposes is to make soles and tennis shoes, which they have a lot of different
Sold us tennis shoes and batteries and cell phones. It's pretty cool.
for algae.
Who would have thought? And then we're making deals with these algae brokers while we're growing these weed. I'm like, this sounds like a drug deal, but it's all legit.
They joked yesterday, that guy did, since there's red lights, they're gonna add green lights
For Christmas.
and go in the contest.
Well, last year I did go with utilities to put up the first Christmas angel, so I suppose that's coming up in a couple weeks already, but it's gonna be snowing soon. I like snow. We do. So Rachel's gonna come in quick and give an update on this building. And then if there's any questions specific to this building too, Alderman Severs came for that specific reason because he was on the building committee. And we want to be transparent and answer any, because there's going to be some growing pains. We had to move in. We will adjust as we move forward, but we are listening to you is what I want you all to know. Take it away.
So really in the past 10 days, we have moved from the Main Street location to this place. A lot of help and support has gone with that to pack everything up that we've had, and then to move in and get used to this new space. It's gonna take time. So just on the location of things, we still have some things that are still being shipped, that are still coming in the mail for delivery. So what you see right now is by far not the final product yet. There will be some things, you will see some workers still putting signs on walls, installing furniture, those types of things. You're still gonna see that. Our fitness equipment, we have about a third of it here. The rest of it is still coming, so you'll see that to be swapped out once it comes. So we're not done quite yet. There is still some work to do. We are having a big open house though. Our celebration of the building will be on December 3rd. So that will give us some time to get those little things all done, for all the mail to get here, for all the things to get installed. December 3rd will be our big community public open house. So that'll be in our newsletter, we'll have it online, we'll have it posted here.
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday.
December 3rd is a
Just
Tuesday.
so it ain't on a Monday.
Not on a euchre
As
day.
long as it works with your schedule, otherwise let me know.
So voting going to be in the gym?
Did you guys talk about election?
Well, no, I haven't yet. Do you want me to do that?
I can, if you want to.
So, as you know, on July 13th, Waupun City Hall got hit by lightning. And it blew out the control panel in the elevator, and we've been having a hard time getting that to work because it's 40 years old. And it'll go up and down, and it will normally work, but we can't guarantee it will always work, and we don't want any problems with election day voting. So, if you want to vote early in person, that started today, you go to City Hall and you see Jenny and Angie, and you can vote like you always have in the past. But on election day itself, it will be here in this building, November 5th. And currently, the plan is that that's a one-time thing. The thought is the elevator will get fixed over the winter. We're putting money into City Hall, we're replacing the roof, we're gonna do some updates on the building over the next few years and modernize it, and then we can get back to normal. But yeah, for this one time, we're going to be voting here. But yes?
The gym?
My guess is the gym, yeah, it's the biggest
Yep.
spot.
So just on election day, so Tuesday, November 5th, the gym will be used for the voting for both counties, but you can vote early now. That's kind of the thing. I had a lot of people come in today asking about early voting. you can vote early now at City Hall. Okay?
And it's a zoo today. It's the first day, it'll settle out, but. Yeah, someone put on What's Up Waupun who didn't know what they were talking about, that early voting was here, and we tried to get out ahead of that, but we can't control what people put on social media.
Ron, is there a
Yes, Mr. Miller.
guesstimate for City Hall being used again?
What's that?
Is there a guesstimate for City Hall being used again?
Yeah, it should be late winter, so
So next year then?
Huh?
Next year?
No, oh yeah, 25, like
Okay.
early 25.
Okay, thank you.
The community players were scheduled to use it in December
Right.
for their play, and I couldn't guarantee the time frame. I tried to talk them into just waiting until February, but they didn't want to, so they're gonna do it at the Union, in the small band room, and I hope that works out for them, because it's a small space. But hopefully everything at the City Hall is back to normal, and then when you have in May for the Day of Prayer, you should be up and running for that without a problem.
Right.
So I'm hopeful of that at least, it should work. But, and then hopefully we don't get hit by lightning again. You know, the night of that storm, we had 3 places in Waupun get hit by lightning. City Hall, it hit the transformer at the old Christian home where Go Dutch Solutions is, it knocked out their stuff. And it hit Eric Mulder's building that he's building out in the industrial park where the truck stop. And that's why that building's not done yet. It went all the way through the building, hit the footing of the building, so they had to bring in an excavator and do some work on that. Dan, you saw the picture, left a hole in the building. So, and I remember the thunderstorm. I was at a friend's house for dinner, and Jenny and I left our kids at home. And then the storm's coming, and our kids don't like storms. So we walked, so I booked it home. I got home just in time for the rain and then brought the kids with us to dinner. But my kids hate thunderstorms. So. I know there's a tour coming up, so I don't want to talk as long as I normally do unless you really want me to.
So, any other questions for the mayor? Or Mayor Nickel?
Mayors? No. Hey, Julie, what have you been up to lately?
So, as far as membership, I see a lot of people who have gone through the membership process already, and then some who may want to or know more about it. So, for the longevity, all the activities that are gonna happen here, for the more future staff that we're gonna need to happen here, we do have a membership fee. So I have pamphlets up at the front welcome desk about that. We have single individual resident options, single individual non-resident options, card playing only options, an all-inclusive that includes fitness option, and then we also have a 2-person household option. So we really took time. We looked at what other places, what other community centers have done for their memberships that are the similar size to us with the similar amenities to us. That's how we came up with our pricing plans. So we have different options that might fit your house a little bit better or yourself a little bit better. So once you have that membership, we do have a key card. It's like a Piggly Wiggly card that you would scan in. That tracks attendance for us, which is something that's actually very, very useful. Every month I report to my board, which is the Board of Park and Recreation, and then also submit a report to the Common Council. So those numbers are very important. They show what we're doing. They show what our schedule, everything for attendance, tracking. That's your key card. That's your membership.
The building will be open from?
Right now, 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. So our typical business hours, which we ran on Main Street, because we're waiting for more staff. So once we have more staff, the plan is to be open earlier in the morning, later in the evening, and weekend time. So once we have more staff.
Stay tuned for details.
Yes.
Got it.
Can I add one?
What if you lose your key card? Is there a cost to replace it?
I will get you a new key card.
Okay.
Can I add a couple things, Rachel?
Yes.
One, thank you, Mrs. Wanish, for the donation to the Historical Society, for Burns Principal School.
Oh.
That's awesome.
I didn't know if they could use it or not, I didn't know what to do with it, so.
That's what Jefferson School looked like when I went there, and you were my substitute teacher, you told me to stop talking about the Cubs all the time. And then the second thing is with this building, Reach Waupun is going to be here in their spot, and the food pantry's coming here too. I know there's scuttlebutt out in the community because the rent for both of them are going up to be here. This isn't something the city pushed on them. We built the building, and for Reach and for the food pantry to what their specifications were. They're getting actually a good deal in the rent for the space they're getting. The city's gonna plow the snow, mow the grass, heat and cool the building, and both organizations negotiated the contracts and were really cool with it. So like Joel Stark and Pastor Barry from the food pantry, they're very happy with what we're doing. The fundraising went great for both of them. I've been bouncing around town and people are asking me, why is the food pantry rent going up? Well, because they're gonna leave a dump on Mill Street where they don't have enough room, and they're gonna come to a brand new building with lots of nice new amenities. And basically, the building was built to what Terry Respalge wanted it to be. So I just want that out there. So if you hear this scuttlebutt that the rent's going up and that the city's hurting the food pantry board doesn't see it that way at all. They voted for this. They designed their part of the building. They're happy with where we're at. So I just want to get that out there because I know that's pretty. Yes, ma'am.
Do they get government money at all?
I don't-
Pantry?
I don't think so. I think it's all donated.
It's donated.
The only government money, like, they are paying us rent, but we are taking care of them in this building. And for the space they're getting a good deal about the modern market. Like, they were paying like $1,500 a month in a spot that they had outgrown a long time ago. So the community table will be here too. So Pastor Barry's Bible study on Wednesdays is moving here and all of that. So this building's gonna get widely used, but it's just, they've got a place for the semi-trucks to back up to and unload all of the goods. So we're gonna be able to serve more people out of here. And the community table, look at all the space we'll have.
I was gonna say, will the community table
Yep.
be in here?
I think so.
Right here.
Okay.
Right here, and if we outgrow, we can go into this space. So about 200 people we can serve.
That wall behind Rachel is movable, so that divides off as a
So
separate, could be a
if we
separate.
would need to, we got a group over here for like senior center stuff, recreation stuff. We can divide this room or just have it be one giant room like we have it now. 200 seats. So it's nice. So the community table will be here on Fridays, once they move over here.
Do you have dividers?
This is a wall.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying over in Beaver End, they got a big thing and they can, lock off, just like you got a couple of them there.
We brought the one that we had.
Oh.
We have our old one too, but this one's a permanent one.
Oh, it goes down.
It's a
Okay.
permanent
Track
one.
there.
Yeah, but we have our other one too.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, any last questions or you guys wanna take your tour?
I have a question.
Yes.
When we came today, I noticed there's 2 handicap parking stalls out there.
Yep.
How many people would have liked parking in them that couldn't?
Probably everyone. So you're not
Couldn't
the
they
first.
have more? I mean, at least 2 more?
Sure.
Is there a law as to how many or whatever that you have to
There is,
have?
there
Yeah,
is.
so we are in compliant with the law
Yep.
at the current time. We did talk to, because I've had other constituents reach out. And so at the moment, we want to pause, we don't want to make any big rapid new changes here, but we will review it and we can add if we need to, so, but thank you. The other thing I would say is if you think about the old building, this building is way more handicap accessible. It's all ADA compliant. And we going back to almost a year ago now, that's crazy. But we added extra restrooms also for convenience here, and they're all ADA compliant as well. We listened to the group at the community, at the other community center, senior center, and tried to accommodate that. But yeah, we have talked to Public Works. Thank you.
And I don't know where it came from, but over the weekend, my daughters were like, Dad, you need more than one handicap parking spot there. I'm like, well, there's 2. But it is, like Julie said and Dan said, it's by law, we are within the law. But like Dan said, the whole parking lot of the building is way more ADA compliant than the old building. So and I said this last month when I visited the old place, we're gonna have some growing pains as we move in. So like if something's bugging you, let Rachel know and we're gonna deal with it. Like, we'll learn as we go together.
Also want to shout out to Park and Rec Committee, all the members of the Park and Rec Committee. They did a lot of hard work here to come up with the procedures, and again, checking with other groups and areas and all of that. So I just want to shout out. I know they're not here today, Rachel, but please convey that.
Maybe we should buy a parking spot.
Hey, I'm open. You got money, I'll get you your spot. I'll have Public Works pick Mr. Tave's parking spot.
Bob Euchre, right in the front row.
Right, yes. Put your Corvette right there. All right, anything else? Or I do want to thank Julie for joining us. It's nice to have you. Go enjoy your tour.
All right. Some of you have been on the grand tour. If you are brand new, you can come with me.
We'll wait for it.